We all want more efficiency, but it can be so elusive. This week, I'll explain why I think the real obstacles are, and then stay tuned to hear what I did to gain real efficiency after struggling for way too long.
Running a service business can be hard. It is not unusual for business owners in industries like contracting, home repair, auto repair, business-to-business services like janitorial, IT and accounting, and many others to feel overwhelmed by all the priorities facing them at any given time. Between addressing the needs of the customers, managing the employees, figuring out the financials, and getting processes in place, feeling like you're making significant progress on your business journey can be difficult. Welcome to Service Industry Success, hosted by Brian Harding. Each week, Brian will look at real-world strategies for building the business you are dreaming of, while also sharing tactics to get through some of the most frustrating parts of business ownership with a lot more ease. Let's get started.
So to start, I think we should kind of figure out what is efficiency. If we're going to talk about how to gain efficiency, let's first be real clear about what we're talking about. So efficiency, in my opinion, is generally like a lack of waste, usually measured in time or money, especially in business. It's about getting more output with the same input or getting the same output with less input. The 401k example we've all heard is a great illustration of this. You know, the young person who gets a job at 19 and puts $300 a month aside until age 27 and then doesn't put a single penny more in their retirement versus the person who starts putting $300 a month aside at age 27 and does so until age 65. The first person has I don't know what the math is anymore, but 30% more money or something like that. That's a very efficient way to grow wealth compared to the second one. So that's a great illustration of efficiency in the terms of money and time. And there's an order in which to address efficiency, in my opinion. And this is where I think we most often miss the boat. And I'm going to illustrate my point with a story here. This happened. This is a real story. This happened in, I think, 2011. It was an Independence Day party, 4th of July party. And there was a kid there, 12-year-old kid. And my kids had dirt bikes, motorcycles. And this kid wanted to learn how to ride a dirt bike. And now I've taught plenty of kids, including my own, this very thing. This was not my first rodeo, teaching a kid how to ride a dirt bike, especially a 12-year-old boy. I'm like, this would be a piece of cake. So being quote unquote efficient would have been having success in about an hour or so. And so I start, showing this kid, here's the throttle and here's the clutch and here's the brakes and here's all the things you need to know. And he's like, yeah, this all makes perfect sense. And so next thing you know, I'm running down the road in the neighborhood I lived in with this kid on a dirt bike. And I'm running beside him as he's trying to learn how to ride this dirt bike, which it was not going well. I probably ran 2 miles helping this kid try to learn how to ride a dirt bike. And I figured I would do this 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour tops. And then next thing you know, it's been a couple of hours and I'm not making any progress. And I finally came and sat down but again, he was comprehending all this stuff. He could work the throttle, he could work the brakes, he could work the clutch. He just couldn't put it all together. I couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. So finally, after I went up to sit down to get a break and maybe something to drink, it was July and it was hot and I was running. And I finally asked his mom, does he know how to ride a bicycle? And she said, no. And so I've been spending a couple of hours trying to teach a kid how to ride a dirt bike who didn't know how to ride a bicycle. Now, that was not a very efficient way to go about teaching something. It's funny now. It was bewildering me at the time, but it's funny now, and it's a great illustration of trying to teach things out of order. A more business applicable illustration could be something like, imagine you and I are in charge of getting people in and out of a stadium for like an NFL football game, and we have 4 lanes open for people to go through the screening to fill the entire stadium. And somebody comes along and says, we need to be more efficient in getting people into the stadium, i.e. getting people in faster. That's how we would measure efficiency in that, right? So in order to try to become more efficient, we start talking about, well, what if we used an app instead of paper tickets? That would be more efficient. People could move through the lines faster. What if we separated the ticket collection from the screening? You have the the people go through the metal detectors? What if you didn't have the same people doing the ticket collection as going through the screening? That would be more efficient, no question. What if we move the 4 screening lanes closer to the parking lot? Like maybe that would cause some kind of efficiency. And obviously, these attempts at improving efficiency of getting people into the stadium faster are silly because it's not addressing the bigger problem first. Adding 4 more lanes would double the efficiency of getting people in. Having an app instead of paper tickets is not the low-hanging fruit in our made-up silly example of getting a stadium full of people. If you only have 4 lanes of people going in, it's only 4 people per 4 seconds or whatever. To get 65,000 people in the stadium would take forever. So we're talking about efficiency. We would not start with how to go from a paper ticket to an app. That would be ludicrous. And it makes perfect sense to us when we're considering an analogy like this. But when it's us trying to gain efficiency with our team, we often default to perceived efficiency, not real efficiency, which is what is being described in that stadium analogy. Yeah, there might be gains in efficiency, but they're nowhere near the best possible efficiency gains we can make. So the obvious question is, how do we avoid this? How do we get real efficiency in our business and avoid this thing of doing like I did with the motorcycle, right? So more on that in a second. First, I'd like to tell you how you can join my new group, Business Tips. This is, and by the way, Business Tips stands for Business Tactics in Immediate Problem Solving. This is a place you can ask any question you have about improving your business, your growth, your team, your processes, your profitability, and I'll answer it right there on the spot, right on the Zoom call. Your question right there in our group. This group is for anyone who has a team of employees that they lead, not just business owners. We meet twice a month on a recorded Zoom call, and there are lots of other benefits as well. Just go to joinbusinesstips.com to see what is included. It's less than $100 a month. No contracts, no commitment. Again, that's joinbusinesstips.com. All right. So the way I look at efficiency, before I start getting into the weeds on things, I want to look at big blocks, medium blocks, and then little blocks. And I work my way from big ideas and big concepts down to little minute improvements. Because again, in my motorcycle example or the stadium example, if we work on the wrong thing first, we're not going to make anywhere near the progress we could. And this is where I think we really miss the boat. We talk about efficiency and we make giant assumptions that people understand and comprehend and utilize knowledge that they're not. I made a wild assumption that kid knew how to ride a bicycle, and he didn't. And I wasted 2 hours trying to teach him how to ride a dirt bike, which was not going to be possible until he could ride a bicycle. It's not. It was just a massive waste of time. That's how we do our training. That's how we assume people know these things that are really consequential, and we focus on the details, and they don't get it. And then we stand there the next week and do it again. They don't get it, and they do it again, and we do it again and again. And next thing you know, we've literally had maybe 30 conversations in extreme cases. Certainly, having a dozen or 2 dozen is not unusual, of saying the same thing, of trying to explain the same procedure, the same process, the same thing, making these wild assumptions they get things that we later find out they don't. So for me, I generally focus my training education with my team in the regular meetings I have, focusing on the big blocks first. So in my motorcycle example, which I relearned the hard way, the obvious lesson, if you don't know how to balance on 2 wheels, focusing your energy on how the clutch works, not super helpful and not the low-hanging fruit. So big blocks first, then intermediate blocks, then details. If I was building a race car and I wanted to build a more efficient car, AKA fast, I wouldn't build a car with an engine from 1947 and spend all my time in the wind tunnel trying to shave drag down to compete with an F1 Ferrari team that compete with their most recent body design. I wouldn't do that. It'd be silly. So big blocks first. So what are the big blocks in our company and the medium blocks and the small blocks? Well, here's how I look at it and how I help other business owners and leaders look at it. And I'll tell you one example, it's April 2024. One of my clients that I've been working with for a while, he doubled his revenue, but 5x his profit. And we can't follow every single dollar through, but I think this is exactly why that happened. Is because we go through the mechanics of making sure we're teaching things in the right order, right? So, what are the big blocks of the company, or in our training? The big blocks in our training are about the company. What are the company priorities? What's special about us? What exactly, not kind of, sort of, not generally, Exactly. What exactly are we trying to build? What level of direction is supposed to come from the top, and what level of autonomous decisions would ideally be coming from the employees doing the particular job or task? Like, do they understand, and do I understand, for this task that needs to be done, how much of it do I want to come from me, like describing how to do the thing, and how much should come from them? And we generally say one thing and then do another, though, on this. There's plenty of episodes I've done about that particular topic. You can go find those. Other big block things for the company. What are the risks we need to always be mindful of? What are the most important things we do? And I talk about this in my episode on primary functions. It's one of the very first episodes I ever did, because this is the thing that changed my life as a business owner. When our employees understood fluently, like had a fluency level understanding of the most important things we did, all the other things all of a sudden had context. But I struggled for years trying to get them to do the thing, make the phone call, do the estimate on time, follow this procedure, whatever. And they didn't, because I was trying to teach the kid how to use the clutch without him knowing how to ride a bicycle. It's the same thing. We got the big blocks are, what is the company? What does success look like for the company? What is the company supposed to be like in 5 years? What are we aiming for? If they don't know that, then focusing on the details of the procedure and how we onboard a new client is considerably less productive. So big blocks are, what does success look like for the company? What is the company supposed to look like? What will tell us in 5 or 10 years that we did it? And if they can't answer that question, then that's where that's where my education training starts. Until they can answer that question like fluently. And also explain, like, why out of all the things we would have picked, out of all the things we could have said, like, here's the things that are the most important things we do. Here's things that matter to us most. Out of all the hundreds of things we could have picked, why did we pick this one? And if they can't answer that question, then that's where my training stays, my education stays. The medium blocks then are about the customer. They have to understand the customer journey. What is the customer thinking, feeling, and doing just before or right when they reach out to us? And what do we want them thinking, feeling, and doing after they've been working with us for 6 months, or after we put the new roof on, or like whatever time frame we pick? What are the parts of the experience the customer looks forward to? What are the parts that cause discomfort? Where is the customer not going to know something, but not be willing to ask out of fear of looking stupid? What are the known predictable problems we need to address before they become big enough for the customer to even mention them? If the employees don't know that stuff, then focusing on the process and procedures, in my opinion, is way less productive. If they don't know what success looks like for the customer and what success looks like for the customer journey, then focusing on the details of how we want our trucks to be stocked every day is much less productive, in my opinion. And in my experience, by the way, when I see my opinion, this is an informed opinion, because I've made this mistake for years. I made these mistakes, right? So once they understand what success looks like for the company, and once they understand what success looks like for the customer, now we can get on to the small block stuff. But this is the part we default to first, and we kind of have this posture of like, you just need to do what I tell you, i.e., follow the procedure and the process. And someday when I have time, I'll tell you why it matters, like why this benefits the company and why this benefits the customer. But that day never comes. We never have that kind of time. Or in some cases, we say, you just need to be quiet and do what you're told and follow this process and procedure, because I know in my gut why we need to do this, but it's not really important that you understand this stuff. And I don't mean to, I'm not like mocking people for doing that. I'm telling you what I did for years. I did this for years. And it wasn't like I'm a bad person. I didn't recognize I was trying to teach a kid how to ride a motorcycle who couldn't ride a bicycle. And that's exactly what I was doing. So once they understand what success looks like for the company, once they understand what success looks like for the customer, then I can move on to the process and procedures, because now they can put it all in context. And by the way, I also learned that when I didn't focus on the process and procedures first, their intuitive knowledge and understanding their intuitive knowledge and their educated understanding of what we were trying to accomplish made it so I didn't need as many procedures, because they got it. They made really good decisions without having to be told to. Now, I'm not saying don't have all your procedures done someday. Absolutely not saying that. I'm saying it was way more efficient for me to get them to do the things needed, and we were way more efficient in terms of money and time, because they made great decisions without having to be told to. The stopping and asking what to do, the not doing the right thing until they're told to, the doing it wrong 73 times until we see that they're doing wrong and then tell them how to do it the right way. That's not efficient. That's the opposite of efficient. So once they understand these things, then they need to know the specific process and procedures to facilitate success for the company and for the customer. But only after they understand those other two things. And that's really important. And how do I know they understand those other two things? I ask them and I stop talking and I listen to what they say. And if in their own words, they can describe what success looks like for the company, and in their own words, they can explain what success looks like for the customer, then they get it, right? As well as having at least a handful of the many reasons any of that stuff about the company and the customer success matters. We ask, like, why is it, again, out of all the things we could have said, like, why is this one thing really important about the company? Well, there's me that we ask, why is that important? There's me many reasons for that, at least a handful. Can they answer that? Can they only answer one? If they can only answer one, they don't quite get it yet. If they can answer four, now they're on their way. And then I can really start drilling down into the process and procedures. But the process and procedures are like the drag tunnel. They're like the app versus the paper ticket. They're like me teaching the kid how to use the clutch on the motorcycle. These things have to come after they have foundational knowledge to put these minor changes and improvements and make it worthwhile. Otherwise, that's not the low-hanging fruit, right? So the first thing we do is stop doing what feels efficient. It feels really efficient to stand in front of a group of people and say, I got 4 minutes to work this topic in. Man, that's going to solve our problem. Even though this has been demonstrably untrue, because I've had the same conversation 17 times before, and that 4 minutes didn't fix it any of those times. But it feels really efficient for me to stand in front of the group and say, this is what we need to do from now on. And they nod and smile. It's a very quote unquote efficient conversation. And then they go out and do whatever they want to anyway. They do exactly what they just told me they weren't going to do. Or they don't do what they tell me they would do. It feels like an efficient approach, but it's really not. It felt really efficient for me to push that motorcycle on that kid or run next to him for 2 hours or whatever it was. It felt like that was the most efficient way to do it. And it was absolutely not. I took for granted things that were silly in hindsight. And that's how we do this kind of stuff as well. We focus our energy on being more efficient on the details, taking for granted the big pieces that they just don't get until they do, right? So when I stopped spending all my time on the small blocks, i.e. telling people how to do things without providing any context for them, and I started educating them about what kind of company we were building, I started leading conversations about the customer and what they really wanted, which had very little to do oftentimes with the technical work we did. That's when we truly gained efficiency. And if efficiency is measured in my efforts to ensure success, we were pretty damn efficient, because I had almost zero to do with that at the end. My involvement in the technical things we did to make money as a company was literally probably zero at the end. And if efficiency is measured in money, the output from the inputs, then the financial success of our company speaks for itself. And same with like the client I mentioned earlier. Like, these things, they speak for themselves, but it doesn't always feel like it's the most efficient thing to make sure that they understand what's the company supposed to look like in 5 years. But over the course of a long time horizon, months or years instead of days and minutes, I want to get this meeting done right now in a few minutes, and I expect this thing to happen in days. In that context, it may not make sense. But if you look at the context of weeks, months, or years, it absolutely does. I don't think we can build a company based on what we're going to do the next 7 days or 4 minutes for our meeting. We have to be thinking those bigger time horizons, because the cumulative impact of that efficiency in a much bigger scale is off the charts more impactful than the little 5-minute thing here and there, the little one week, things week to week or whatever. So yeah, don't forget, go to joinbusinesstips.com to see all the benefits included in my new group called Business Tips. Meet twice a month on a recorded Zoom call, and you can ask any question you have about improving your business, your growth, your team, your processes, your profitability, and I'll answer right there on the spot. It's awesome. It's a great group of people going, and it's been a lot of fun. Just go to joinbusinesstips.com to see what else is included. It's less than $100 a month, no contracts, no commitment. That's joinbusinesstips.com. And as always, if you find the information I share helpful, please share this podcast with a friend or colleague you think can benefit from it. Of course, public sharing is appreciated too. That's it for this week, and I'll talk to you all next week.